Welcome to video 6. This video is titled, Why Genesis 2, not Genesis 3, Governs Christian Relationships. By this point in the series, one conclusion should be clear. Paul does not govern Christian relationships by Genesis 3. He governs them by Genesis 2, reopened and reordered through Christ. That claim sounds strange to modern ears, because we are used to thinking that ethics must begin with what is broken. Paul does not. Rather, Paul begins with what has been restored. Genesis 2 describes relational life before rivalry enters the world. Life is received, not seized. Difference is given, not defended. Order exists, but it is not enforced. Man is formed first. Woman is formed from man, and the movement of the text is toward union, not control. This is not hierarchy. It is relational origin. And here is the crucial point. Genesis 2 assumes relational order does not depend on power, and that gift does not require control. No one is managing anyone. No one is securing themselves against the other. No one is protecting life through domination. Power is unnecessary because trust has not yet collapsed. Genesis 3 changes that. Once relational trust breaks, power rushes in to fill the gap. Desire becomes rivalry. Self-given becomes domination. Difference becomes threat. Order becomes power struggle. Genesis 3 tells us what happens when gift is no longer trusted. But Paul never treats Genesis 3 as the blueprint for redeemed life. He treats it as the problem Christ has addressed. This is why Paul keeps returning to creation language. When he speaks about marriage, he quotes Genesis 2. The two shall become one flesh. When he speaks about image and glory, he reasons from origin. When he speaks about the church, he speaks of body and head, not ruler and subject. Paul is not nostalgic. He is theological. He believes that in Christ, the assumption of Genesis 2 becomes live again. That life can once more be received rather than seized. That identity can be given rather than defended. That relationships can be ordered without control. This is why Paul's commands sound so different from what we expect. They are not designed to manage rivalry. They are designed to display redemption. Love replaces control. Reverence replaces fear. Submission replaces grasping. These are not techniques. They are signs. They show that a different grammar of life is now at work. This also explains why Paul refuses to absolutize either hierarchy or equality. Hierarchy assumes domination is unavoidable. Equality assumes power struggle is definitive. Genesis 2 assumes neither. Genesis 2 assumes relational order does not depend on power, and that gift does not require control. Paul believes Christ makes that assumption live again. Christian relationships, then, are not governed by collapse. They are governed by calling. They are not shaped by fear of abuse. They are shaped by conformity to Christ. That does not make Paul naive. It makes him hopeful in a very specific way. He believes the gospel actually changes the grammar of life. So here is the central claim of this entire introductory series of 6 videos. Genesis 3 explains why relationships break. Genesis 2 explains what relationships are for. And Christ determines which one governs Christian life. Paul chooses Genesis 2. not because the fall didn't happen, but because Christ did. Christian ethics does not ask, how do we survive a broken world? It asks, what does restored humanity look like? Genesis 2, not Genesis 3, governs Christian relationships, and Christ is the reason why. What we've seen in these videos is not a clash of personalities or preferences, but a deeper problem of starting assumptions. When power becomes the organizing question, Christian relationships are already being read through Genesis 3 rather than Genesis 2. That's why both hierarchical complementarianism and egalitarianism keep circling the same tensions in opposite directions. At this point, a natural question arises. If Paul is not managing the fall, and if he is not working with power as the primary category, then what does that mean for the frameworks we've inherited? In the next video, I want to step out of diagnosis and address that question directly, not by choosing sides, but by explaining why I no longer inhabit one of them.